Hello and welcome everyone to behalf of the great CFO Webinar Series. And thank you very much for coming to this second session of the webinar series. I'm Candice from One Pacific. And at One Pacific, we spoke to many CFOs who really crave for new insights that you may not find in your textbooks, especially on this topic of transformation of finance in an organization. So in our last session, we discussed 2023 global and regional outlook of the economy and how modern accounting or actionable insights play key roles in financial automation. We also discussed the practical scenario planning for CFOs and uncertainties. If you missed our first session, you may talk to our team to get the recording. And today, we're kicking off this webinar with a CFO readiness in AI, continuous close as the future of accounting, and multi-company real-time consolidation. Today, we're proud to have Donald, the Managing Director of One Pacific. And we have Vijay from Blackline, who is Asia Pacific Business Leader of Latest Accounting Cloud, who is based in Sydney in Australia. And we also have Leon from Oracle NetSuite, and he has decades of experience in enterprise resource planning consulting. So today we can't wait to hear from the speaker, and over to you, Donald.
Okay, thanks, Candice, and thank you everyone for joining us. So I'm going to start this off, and we'll talk a little bit about the CFO office and AI readiness and what some other companies are doing, and then we'll turn it over to Vijay. He'll talk about continuous close, and then Leon will talk about some Oracle Suite. So let me just jump right in and talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and the CFO office and finance automation. So a lot of this is it's similar to what we've heard before in the last few years, to be honest. So talk about finance automation readiness with artificial intelligence and machine learning, which they're related areas, but almost 50% of time is spent on non-value added activities from the finance office, and these are from some surveys from FP&A trends over the last few years. So it hasn't actually changed a whole lot. Not surprisingly, Excel still dominates with 58% of users using that. But organizations that have implemented artificial intelligence or machine learning spend 16% more time on high value add activities like driving action and insight rather than the average company. So there's definitely some benefits there. And we'll talk a little bit about areas where the AI and machine learning can make a difference and what some companies are doing. But it does change finance. So what are some of the areas? It changes the role of finance, the way the team carries out their tasks, and it also requires some different skill sets in a way, which is not surprising. But I think for One Pacific, the main benefit we see from companies who have started to implement these types of solutions is it makes the finance team more of a business partner to the rest of the business. And provide more valuable services such as analytics and most importantly, recommendations and actions. It certainly saves tremendous time, and we'll see some examples of that, and it improves accuracy across the organization. So what are some of the examples? So automated forecast, and we'll see an example of that. Deliver better insights based on data rather than say gut feel of executives. You actually have some data to back up what your recommendations, what you're recommending. And then there's digital assistants like Alexa or Siri, which we're used to sort of in a consumer environment, but the machine learning, the AI can actually answer questions. You can say stuff like, hey, what are my, what's my forecast for the next 6 months? And then the machine learning will actually provide the answers for you. So it just makes it easier to get the data. And then there's data quality. So flagging anomalies in the data and consequently in the business as well. And these are all quite easy to do. Just a slide on this from Gartner, but some similar areas that common use cases. So predicting customer behavior, which in a lot of businesses drives revenue, error and anomaly detections we talked about, decision support and analysis, obviously automating processes, scenario planning, improving that, doing more scenarios, and related to that is forecasting. talk about some manual processes. Manual processes is more common in finance than digital. So there's still a lot going on, as we said, with Excel. And you can see that from a survey, this survey from Harvard Business Review, that people are using data analytics and tools to help form decisions, but it's still very manual, labor intensive and manual processes to collect and utilize the data. And this is an area that we want to help people move away from. But what are people doing? So finance teams are expecting AI to play a bigger role in their future work. So you can see from the chart at the bottom that the 65% of people are expecting AI to play a role in machine learning in the next 2 to 3 years. So the question is how to get there, as fast as you can. Again, a similar slide just to talk about a different view of it, but this is respondents expecting to invest more in each of these technologies in the next 2 years. And you see that the number one there is actually advanced data analytics and AI. So this is where the AI, machine learning, and predictive analytics comes in. So there's definitely some spend and some movement towards this area in the next couple of years. So I want to go dive just a little deeper into a couple of these areas, and I thought this is an interesting chart that we've used. So I'm not really going to go over the kind of the chart on the left. It's a maturity model. I'm happy to send this out to anyone who wants it. So just let us know either in Zoom or via email, and we can send it out and go over. It's actually pretty comprehensive, and it talks about finance departments from developing state into leading state, and into 5 or 6 different areas, what the leading edge is. And you just can see, though, on the leading edge, there's a lot of areas around AI and machine learning that people are incorporating. But we're going to keep it a little bit simpler than that and just focus on the one on the right, which talks about the key processes for finance departments. So we've got scenario management, operation plans, driver-based planning, analytics, and collaboration. But 3 of these areas are really targets for AI, and that's scenario management, driver-based planning, and predictive analytics. So let's look at those in just a little bit more detail. So driver-based planning. So this is not just automating the P&L. It's really looking at what drives the business or the business model. And as we have at the bottom, and as One Pacific always says, the CFO office is the owner of the business model, because the CFO office, they understand how the whole business works and how everything fits together, and what levers and drivers you can pull and adjust to impact the business. So the driver-based planning is how you sell, how you make it, and then how you balance your production with inventory and demand. And what we can see here is on the driver-based planning front, only a few companies from these surveys are actually using the digital and automation and the predictive analytics to analyze their drivers. And this is actually, to me, one of the most interesting parts, because you really can see how the business all fits together. It's related, of course, to scenario management, because your drivers drive some of your scenarios. But using scenario management, you can run simulations quickly, dynamically, and at different levels of the organization. So if you're a big organization, you might run it by departments or business units or countries. But this is really a crucial capability. And especially today, to be honest, after we've seen the last 2 years, it's hard to plan for a single future when you don't really know what's going to happen. So having different scenarios can really give some executives an insight into the business and how it runs, and help the planning for the future. And only 11% now are really running scenarios multi-dimensional and real time. I mean, and it does take a lot of data to do that. But it's an area that you can get to, and having the right data, you can implement some AI and machine learning to run more and more scenarios, and then base some actions on that. Now, analytics, though, is the last part of that. And to me, and to One Pacific, it's actually the easiest area to start in. And it's definitely increasing in the finance departments. So in a recent survey of nearly 300 professionals, only 8% were using it. but 55% are planning to deploy it in the next few years. So once you have the data, it's actually quite easy to get started in this. So we kind of look at this as low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to go through two examples real quick. So look at Microsoft. So this is their internal finance department. So they use machine learning for forecasting. And this is not something new. This is something they implemented, I think it was around 2015, 2016. So granted, it's a big company, but they were looking at an extreme, a lot of time, Excel focused, being Microsoft, it's not a surprise, but they were using 3 weeks per quarter to build up their forecast. And literally 1,000 people from the different subsidiaries and product teams were creating spreadsheets and rolling them up. And this eventually went up to the office of the CFO, where her team was able to analyze it and help make decisions for the business. You know, anybody can look at that and say that's a pretty inefficient process. So they implemented some machine learning process, and what they found I thought was quite interesting. So the algorithms were as good as the humans, to be honest. So algorithms could replace the human effort in this. The variance rate was cut in half, and models were turned around in 30 minutes from 3 weeks, right? And so what that allowed them to do was to push the analytics and insights down to the business units faster, for faster action. So there's an article there, there's a link to how this worked before, if you're interested in that. So quite interesting. So that's a really, really big company, but we're able to do it pretty quickly and get some benefits. Here's another one that I thought was interesting. So PayU is a Netherlands-based payment service provider, founded in 2002. So it's not really that old of a company, but for them in a high growth market, traditional planning was not working. And that made the forecasting quite difficult because you have such high growth, things are changing all the time. And they found that they were easily off 5% or more for each month. And they had vast amounts of time were spent on activities in producing the forecast. So consolidating and analyzing the pipeline data from country and business. And if you're in a high growth business, you know that the pipeline and the revenue forecasting tends to be the highest priority. And also the forecasts were affected by both conscious and unconscious bias, which again is not a surprise. People are trying to use their gut feel and put that into the forecast, but you're not really looking at the underlying data. So they took 3 to 4 months and set up a prototype that proved more successful in forecasting their revenue and gross margin. And the way they looked at it was in 5 different ways. So the process went from a local process, so they're in many, many countries because they're a payment provider. So from everyone trying to do their own thing, a local process, to more of a centralized process. The drivers went from internal drivers of the business to internal and external. And just a word about external drivers, with the data sets and the data that's available today, you actually can incorporate that external data into your forecast, right? So maybe it's income distribution for different markets you're in or other things. A lot of this stuff is available and at either low or no cost. So it gives you another dimension to look at when you're looking at the business that makes it even more accurate. So that's the drivers, so they can incorporate external drivers. Forecasting went from a week to a day. So similar to what you saw with Microsoft, they went from 3 weeks to just, less than a day. Better accuracy. So from about 5% variance to less than 2% variance. And the budget input went from a low confidence to higher confidence. So that means that the management teams, both centrally in the different countries, have a higher confidence in the numbers and can probably make better decisions. So these are just 2 relatively simple examples of different types of companies that have incorporated AI and machine learning into their finance processes and seen some benefits. And as I said, I think using it for the analytics side is probably the easiest way and the quickest way to get some benefits. And once you've done that, then you can look at the drivers and the scenario planning, which is a little more complex, but can continue to add value to the finance department and ultimately to the rest of the business. So this is a slide we showed at the last, I showed the last series we did of this, but I think it's really important and probably show it at every one. But this is looking at predictive analytics, machine learning, from a scale, right? From a most simple to more complex, more valuable. So you've got descriptive analytics, which is standard reports, ad hoc reports, maybe some queries or drill down or some alerts. Hey, something happened. This is still where we see most organizations. So this even goes back to where Microsoft was with, Excel files going everywhere and people using that for reporting. The next step up is predictive analytics, and this is where we start to get into some of the machine learning, where you're doing a bit of a statistical analysis, some extrapolation, and some predictive modeling. Again, this area is becoming easier and easier for organizations of any size to take advantage of, because the tools that are available to take advantage of this, which used to cost a lot of money, are really, really available to any organization. The key, I think, is having your data in place and the quality of the data and the team members with some training and some skill sets to take advantage of it. So we see this as an area that's really ripe for companies to take advantage of, particularly when you have, we're going to talk about some tools today, whether it's NetSuite and Blackline. When you have these types of tools that give you a single source of truth, you can use that data to do some pretty sophisticated modeling at a pretty reasonable level of effort. So Candice, that's all I had for my introduction. So I'm going to turn it back over, I think, to Vijay.
Yes, please. Vijay, over to you.
Just confirm that, Candice, that you can hear me.
Yes, very well.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And you can see my screen, which says continuous accounting.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's start talking about continuous accounting. So I think Donald made some really good points in that space, particularly around automation and how that all ties in together. I wanted to talk about particularly on the close process and some of the elements there. And these are some relevant questions about what you could, so if we had a financial close, what does that do? And how does that translate into your business? Because people often assume that the close process will remain static and keep doing what it does. There's two primary benefits from that. First of all, the close process hasn't changed in years. It's still heavily based on spreadsheets, still heavily manual. And it's an area that can be automated, so we should. What's more important is, what are you going to do with that time now that you've got it and you're not spending it on the close? And so why don't people, what are some of the barriers to moving into automated accounting? And in particular, what are stopping people moving up the close? Well, 69% still say it's manual effort. It's still the primary driver there. CFOs are saying that they want to retain talent, but only 33% of CFOs are still actually focusing on that. 68% still see the IT controls as a security risk, i.e. they're not strong enough. And 48 still see technology not being effectively deployed as an issue in there as well. So what's the impact of these manual processes when you are still using them or not using any types of automation? So I want to talk through all of these. The key thing is that you're not utilizing your investment, i.e. your productivity from the people that you have got. The second part is the employee engagement. And I'm assuming that most people have had challenges in terms of recruiting and retaining good talent in the marketplace over the last few years. Well, having them work on tasks that they don't find interesting or is uneven is getting harder to retain people in that regard, especially when there's solutions out there to automate something. People want to work with that technology. And so what does modern finance give you? So if you look to modern finance improvement, there's going to be significant improvement in productivity. You should be looking for 2 to 3 times improvement in that area. You should be seeing an organizational cost. Now, this cost is often translated into headcount. That's not often the case. What it is, it's removing the need to add additional headcount, particularly if you're in a growing business. So being able to do more with less is also an implied reduction in that cost. And finally, the most important piece of this is that time that you can now spend on analysis versus actually just doing manual tasks. So what would you do if I could change your close time is the answer to this thing. So what are the businesses that are automating seeing? So good looks like a 4 days close period. Okay, so that could be a month, your quarter, or your year, but you really should be looking at 4 days. It should be automated where it can be. You'll see a significantly lower cost for your auditors. You'll be able to achieve this with fewer FTEs, And interestingly, you'll be able to pay your good people higher rates, which will drive your retention. So if you think about what it means for the CFO, and Don talked to this a little bit earlier, is the focus of people. As a CFO or finance leaders, they're spending a lot of time still doing the actual accounting job, where really, given where the economy's at and where the market is right now, and the technology available, they should be spending time on leading and supporting the business through its strategy and its business direction. They're the custodian, like what Donald was talking about earlier. And so automation, where you can, enables them to focus on where they should. So let's talk about the record to report, which is effectively the key part of the closing journey. So this is what a typical closing process looks like. You have all your inputs from all your various parts of your business. And if you've got a tool like NetSuite in place, well, obviously that's going to consolidate a lot of this and make that initial piece that much faster. However, so you still need to do your reconciliations, your journals and so on. And once you've actually completed the month in the solution itself, there's still the reporting piece and the report and the compliance and the control before someone can actually sign off to say that that period is officially closed. Now, what's the implication of that? Well, what happens is that you have a period end close, which absorbs your finance team. So look at the date right now, right? So we're on the first week of the month. The finance teams are still going to be focused on closing out the previous month. What it means is that they're not spending any time on reporting or any just-in-time business requirements. So for example, if someone came to finance needing some information today, they would struggle to get that because everyone would be focused on the month end or the period end close. So what does continuous accounting look like in the context of this? Well, by motivating this, it allows that calendar to follow the business rather than the process. Okay, and it means that those period end tasks become day-to-day tasks. And what that will enable you to achieve is move from this giant bubble that you have every month into more smoothing of this activity. So it means doing those little things every day to make your close process a minor bump. The implication and the business benefit to your business is you can spend that time on reporting and analysis and to help the business make better decisions. And right now, if you think about the tools that are available to other lines of business, the sales team has CRM, we can go online and we can order something and track the package right to our door. This isn't any longer a value, a nice to have solution. This is a need, and the finance team needs this to catch up. In terms of what that continuous accounting process looks like, it means all of these layers of those elements come into a single bucket, and the process happens continuously. Continuous reconciliation, variance analysis, your reconciliations move daily in terms of your balances and so on. And that enables you that as you move to the end of your month or your quarter to be able to tick those things off immediately. So if you think about all the dependencies around that, there's intercompanies clearing, there's transaction matching, netting and settlement is a big one as well, especially in today's age at the moment. So there's 5 steps to make accounting continuous. Okay, so the first thing is you want to split this into smaller tasks so they can be chunked out, so it's not one giant thing. The scheduling of the tasks is also important. When do they happen? Not in the month cycle, but also in the day. Okay, by that you want to lead those tasks to happen every day. You have to automate everywhere where you can, and I'll post a story about that shortly in the chat about why the automation is important. And the critical piece to this is when you're making any change around automation is you got to be able to monitor it, because if you can't measure it, you don't know what impact it's having on your business. So really critical that any change that you make in your business, you do have metrics to change those. You also need, so let's have a look at one of those. Let's look at the variance analysis. Okay, so this is where you would need to monitor those in there. So if you look at the variance analysis currently, it's high level, it's very last minute, it's often rushed. And it's one of the areas where people just take those last bits of balance and just post it into a general account. Where you want to get to is that this is done throughout the month, and therefore you can actually track those dollars and cents as you go through. And what that does, it gives your CFO and the business confidence in the statements that are going through. Now, how does that translate into those 5 stages? Well, I'll let you read through these. But the key thing is you've got to be able to break your batch processes out by scheduling the variance to weekly. That will add a greater efficiency. Yeah, Blackline is a solution that automates this whole process, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But having the dashboards to be able to monitor this gives you a consistent balance that you can always look at and use as well. Now, obviously, if you've got a great background solution like NetSuite, well, then that gives you that consistent data, and I'm sure you'll hear about that in a little while as well. But really what this does, it gives you the ability to then apply AI on top of this, machine learning, to then further optimize that as you go. And so if you look at what modern finance gives you, is having that platform in the background to enable you to build on that. So we looked at this variance analysis. If you remember, there were 6 other elements that you took into. Well, our goal is that continuous improvement, automate the process that can be automated as quickly as possible. And the key one we're talking about there is close process automation. So if you are still manually closing your month or your quarter, well, then you are behind the market in that regard, and you're still doing manual tasks where you can automate very quickly. To roll out something like this would normally take in the region of 60 days, for example. So it's a very quick plug in things around that. And what it allows you to do is free up the time of your accountants to then focus on those other areas, whilst the solution itself uses the AI and the ML built in there to continue to automate those. So if you look at the financial close, those are the 6 key tasks that you're looking at over there, your recs, your tasks, variance, etc. Okay, and those tie into the financial close element on there. There's also an intercompany piece that ties into that automation, reconciliations, and then of course your dashboard and your reporting that adds to that. Now, once you've gotten that piece into there, that enables you to set up your platform for your continuous accounting, which is a variance down to the individual cents and dollars, advanced reporting, reconciliations, your bank data coming into there specifically, and also things like your cash management as well. So really what we talked about was one particular area, the variance piece, and the 5 steps that are associated with that. You apply that to all the different areas. Blackline is the solution that automates all that for you. It connects natively into ERP, also has native connections into other leading ERPs as well, with the benefit of your users being able to automatically start tracking their daily activities and tracking that. And bringing that automation then frees up the time to focus on those tasks where they can add value into those analysis around that. And so what does that evolution look like? So if you look at your record to report currently, if you don't have a closed process tool, the chances are you're focusing on a lot of the manual efforts that are on the left column. With Blackline, you're looking at automating the reconciliations, the intercompany, and starting to reduce that workload over there. And then by continuing to use the AI and the machine learning elements of this and adding additional process improvements with the data that you get out from them, you can improve the cadence and the workload and spread that as well. So I think Don will talk about this. I won't spend too long on this slide, but really modern finance is based on having the technology and using that effectively and making decisions based on data and removing the inconsistencies of the workload, which enables you to attract and to retain your top talent and to be more efficient with the talent you do have. And so a quick look at what the platform includes. Now, from a closed process perspective, these are the elements that tie your closed process together. In addition to this, you may want to have a look at your cash and apply the same solution to there, or go deeper into the intercompany elements that you have as well. And so that's really the platform, the structure, and the functional areas that are covered inside of that closed process. Now, the next step for you is to look at this. If you are running at a closed process that goes from the 1st of the month past the 4th of the month, you have elements that are manual. And so you want to have a look at that. So in conjunction with OnePack, we are offering everyone on this webinar and in this series a free activity analysis. And what that will enable to do is to look at where your closed process is causing you the most pain and look to help you automate that. Now, ideally on the back of that, you'll look at Blackline and evaluate if that's right for your business. If not, there are still some processes that you can put in place to address some of the inefficiencies in that process. All right, with that, back to you, Candice.
Thank you, Vijay. I think this concept of continuous accounting is really useful, especially at the end of the year. But I think December to March time are the high season for most of the CFOs closing the business. So moving on, we have a speaker from Oracle NetSuite, Leon Chen, is going to talk about the foundation of a company to start with AI and also real-time multi-company consolidation. So Leon, could you share your screen and over to you?
Thank you. Share my screen. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Leon Chen. I work in Oracle NetSuite and based in Hong Kong. So I'm very happy. It's my pleasure to introduce NetSuite to you. First, can you hear me clearly? Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So let's starting from what is NetSuite. So NetSuite is continue with what Donna and Vijay said, is a foundation, a solid foundation for the AI automatic finance. Let me introduce the basic structure of NetSuite. So first, we build our platform and in our hardware infrastructure. So this is we build a very new spatial data model that can consistently put all the data in one unified data model. And then after that, we build up this platform. We, unlike the traditional ERP, we don't start from function. We start building the platform that can build up the function on the very unique structure. And with that, we start build up ERP, supply chain management, all different kind of functions there. And based on that, then we expand into more functions like multi-book, multi-subsidiaries, and cross-subsidiary in transactions and multi-currency. And then we also segment that into different industry solutions, so we can support with this unified data model, but we can support different industries like software, service, manufacturing, and wholesale distributions. And at the end, we can support suite analytics, which is enable and a solid basis for the machine learning and artificial intelligence. So who is NetSuite? NetSuite is the first ERP cloud company that coming to was first founding about 20 years ago. Currently, we have 32,000 customers worldwide, and in the last year, we add on another 6,000 customers in our portfolio. And we currently support 270 more countries and territories global-wise. So NetSuite is such a solution, and the center of the NetSuite is the single database. And then around that, we built all the functions there, and then we enable a lot of multi-currency subsidiary things. And we have all these functions built inside NetSuite, which is for the convenience of the user, that they can easily use this software to manage their business, daily business. And in the center of the system is the financial, ERP financial, which is the solid ground for our topic today. So this is a modern dashboard for an CFO. It's got screen cut from NetSuite. As you can see that besides the traditional KPIs about finance data there, we also, the CFO can also see the transaction from purchase side, from inventory side, and from all like sales side, from various different business areas in the company. And we built a new way of working. This is a new way to import a transaction. Is an example for the sales order. And if you want to import the sales order, maybe you also want to know what happened to that customers at this current status. So here's all the statistics about that specific customer. And we have the customer, you have items that import in the system. And meanwhile, you can notice what's the value of the customer and how many, like the average order frequency, how many times he can place the order to us. It will easy to the customer, for our employee to decide whether this customer is a value customer or not. And it's easy for him to see the overview about this customer. So here's various user interface you can create from NetSuite. So we have a out-of-box interface for all our customers, but also you can build on your own interface with a very easy drag and drop tool to build up different interfaces, like different using the mobile device or using the iPad. You can build up different way to view your business. So NetSuite is could be the world's greatest multi-company system. That's what we say about ourselves. And this structure showing like we have a group company, the headquarters in Germany and using euro as the currency. Then we have different subsidiaries in UK and the United States using pound and US dollars. Also, we have other companies there. In each level, we'll build eliminations, which will help to automatically eliminate the intercompany transaction, so that we can eliminate the intercompany internal intercoms. Here's some number about NetSuite, interest number from our customers. For example, we have one single customer who has 557 subsidiaries in their system. We also have some customers that can manage about like more than 100 currencies in the single system. And also most of the customer, although the company is a US-based company, but most of the transaction happens is outside the US. And we have a customer running his business in more than 57 countries. And actually recently we signed some, onboard some new customers who runs much more countries, but still during implementation. And it can reach to more than 100 countries in the single system there. So here is one of the function. It's a screenshot of NetSuite. As you can see, there is a lot of comprehensive supporting for exchange rate. So we have different ways to a different exchange rate type that can support by the system and between various subsidiaries. Is the relationship, and we have current, average, and historical exchange rate be recorded by system. So when you consolidate or transfer into another currency, we can immediately seeing the consolidated exchange rate impact of the system. Besides that, we also develop some very fancy function. This is the digital currency. So we extract the digital currency exchange rate more than once a day, can be imported into the system. And then we build up the bridge between the cryptocurrency to traditional finance. And we can record the transaction in the digital currency, the transaction quantity, exchange rate, and fiat currency impact. And all this be reflected into your final financial book. Here is in a typical way how we bought our system, or how we bought our customers. So we starting, it is a recommendation. Maybe we can starting from establish a very simple finance modules, enable finance modules, and if you have a clear trial balance, maybe we can bring you on board within weeks. And after that, you can import new modules there. There is no priority about all the modules here. You can, for example, you can enable project management right after your finance remain go live, or you can bring more inventory management or even multi-book accounting so that you can provide various books for the same subsidiaries according to different GAAP. NetSuite is very strong in supporting expansion. Here are some data about a snapshot about our transactions at some specific time. And you can see there's billions of application requests every day. So our robust cloud infrastructure can easily handle that kind of transaction. There's hundreds of millions of sales orders in the system at the same time. And averagely, we add up more than 9 terabyte data every day into our database. So it's a very strong system that can support you grow from a small company into a big company. We have been trusted by 32,000 customers, as I have said, and as you can see, they all coming from various sectors or various categories of industries, software, service, even nonprofit, that can all support their business. The most important is our finance module can support them to do all kinds of business within the single system. So as I had mentioned, we have deployed for more than 200 different countries or territories. Currently, system can support 27 user interface language, UI languages, including in Asia. And most commonly we use here is English, simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Thai. All these languages supported by system and out of box natively. And we have created about 100, more than 100 country tags, which including the golden tags from China, e-tags from UK, and tax requirement from Germany, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. We have bank payment formats have been built, more than 90 bank payment formats. And in Hong Kong, currently, we also have customer that can you do the automatic bank payment to HSBC and DBS. So 190, more than 190, almost all the legal currencies supported by the system. And we work with HSBC to automatically update the exchange rate daily for all of our customers, free of charge. So here is the idea that how we build this system. First, we want to make system simple enough, because user resistance is a big problem to deploy an enterprise-wide system. We try to simplify the process as much as possible. We reduce all of the import efforts. So all the data import system only once and can be transferred into other transactions. Like the sales order data will get into system, then transfer into an invoice, and then transfer into accounts receivable. And then our finance staff can view the information just from the original transaction. And we speed up the transaction. So we try to reduce as much as possible about the batch process. So all the data in NetSuite is almost real time. And when you see a finance report for like an aging report, the data reflect the last minute import invoice from any customers. And we have built up a very robust collaboration platform so that we can communicate with other systems. We talk to the other system, make a NetSuite to talk to other systems easily. Just an example I'll show you about the digital currency update, exchange rate update is building up through that interface. It's a very limited effort, just write a few lines of APIs and we can enable that in the system already. As I will show you the scale, you have seen the scale about the NetSuite, how much it drops can support. So you can starting from a very small companies, like we have customer starting with 5 employees and coming to a multi-hundred employees companies still on our same platform. And also the system is very secure. Your data is safe with us. No one can breach the data from our very strong Oracle infrastructure. So here is one example about our intelligent analysis. And we introduced this intelligent analysis last year. And we have 100 trained developers working on this project right now. And from there, it is an example, a very simple example that we use AI to categorize the customer and find out them based on the gross profit you can get from them. As you can see, here is very easily can identify the high profit customers in the last cluster, the base 500, and some low profit customers, about 12,000 here on this easy display chart. You can add on more intelligent analysis based on your needs and train your model with the data that in NetSuite to create a new chart or new table to show you the result. So the project is ongoing and we will hope that release very soon. So there's some of them is already being enabled in the system, like supply chain control tower. We are able to predict, we have trained up the data and find out a way to predict the risk about your supply shortage. We'll also be able to predict will give the suggestion to predict the vendor supply performance. And also sales revenue prediction planning is a part of the plan. And as is shown here, this is revenue predicting is a part of the plan that we're training the data, try to learn that you can predict how many revenue will be impacted in the future. And this is the product will be released soon, and we hope you can soon, if you become our partner, soon you will enjoy these great functions there. So that is NetSuite as a wrap up. NetSuite is build a very solid, strong data model at the core, and then we build a platform around it to add on all the functions there. So because of this very unique data model, we are able to support artificial intelligence to manually to use the system machine to learn your data performance, your data pattern, and predict for your for the intelligence of the company. Thanks for. So that's my presentation, and I pass back to Sandy.